This is Joyce Tice. It's the 2nd of August, 2016, and I'm at the History Center with Joan Nash O'Dell, also known as Joan. Joan grew up in this area. She graduated from Mansfield High School in 1947. She's going to tell us about the military career in World War II and Korea of her husband, Bob O'Dell. Thanks for coming, Joanne.
You're very welcome. I feel that this information should be documented because not many people are left that know about Bob's Army career. He joined the Army in January 1940. Work was very poor, and he knew that no doubt we would be in what was later World War II, and so he enlisted. He spent most of the first 2.5 years down in Norfolk, Virginia area, and in late 42 or early 43, I'm not sure which, he was sent to North Africa. He enjoyed North Africa. It was warm. They had wonderful fruit.
How long was he there?
I'm not sure, but not real long. It was in preparation of invasion of Southern Europe. From North Africa, he was sent to Sardinia, and he said it was the dirtiest, awful island. And at night, he and some fellows would go down to the wharf and shoot rats, and he said the rats were as big as cats. Well, from there, they went over to Marseille, France, and I don't know the timing, because I didn't know him then on some of these, but he said Marseille was a pretty wide open city, as you might imagine, and from there they invaded Austria. So the rest of his time in Europe was in Austria. Several things happened in Austria.
Well, somewhere along, he joined before the war started. So at what point, where was he when the war started?
In Virginia.
Okay.
In Virginia.
So all of what you're talking about now was after the war started? Okay.
Yes. He said Austria was so beautiful even during wartime, and we had the privilege in 1978 to go back and visit, of which I will comment a little more later. The Austrian people were very happy to see the Americans, but there was still a lot of Nazis around.
This was in the 70s?
No, this was in the 40s.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, they had to drive the poor Austrians out of their home and take over lots of times. And one of the things they would always look for when they took a house over, they'd head for under the kitchen sink, and there would be a jug with water glass in them, and in the bottom of the water glass jugs was fresh eggs. Excuse me. All they had to eat was powdered eggs, and I guess they were pretty bad.
Of course.
So they'd fry up a big lot of eggs. And one of the things that he didn't talk much about, and I didn't know it for years, he single-handedly captured a German pilot that had been shot down. It seems that the GIs were in a thicket, and they saw this fellow walking across the field, and they could tell by his jumpsuit that it was German. And so Bob single-handedly went out and told him to halt, and which he did. There was no marking on him. He gave Bob no resistance, and Bob took him back to the thicket, and then 2 other GIs took him back to the field headquarters, where he became a prisoner of war. For this act, Bob did receive the Bronze Star. So he was there until the end of the war, and one house that they took over, it's nice to put it, took over, he brought home a partially cashmere blanket, which was snapped to a feather tick. And I had it for years. I've given it to my youngest daughter now. Very heavy, but very lovely. And So the war ended in May of 1945. From there, he was shipped to Scotland, where he boarded the Queen Elizabeth, and I have a certificate they gave all the soldiers that they had been passengers on the Queen Elizabeth, and he came to New York. From New York, he was shipped to Fort Smith, Arkansas, where he was discharged, sort of. He made the mistake of joining the inactive reserves, thinking that would be a safe area to be in, which it turned out to be quite the contrary. After he came back east, he visited his only sister in Norfolk, and then he headed for Mansfield, where his mother lived. I didn't meet Bob until a year later, the fall of '46, at a square dance at the high school, which was Woodall Dance. Woody Woodall. And at that time, men who were courting, if you will, always wore a suit. And here comes this good-looking guy across the floor and asked me to dance. I had been the business manager, and I had all my work done at intermission, and I was out talking to the girls. And, well, this man kept coming back and asking me to dance.
What did you do, say no?
No, I danced, really.
Oh, all right.
And then we went together sort of off and on in my senior year until April. I broke it off. And,
well, he was quite a bit older than you.
Yes, he was.
13 years?
No, 11 and a half.
11.
11 and a half. So he pursued a new profession, if you will. He learned to be a house painter. And that, to do it properly, Wade Shaw made very sure that it was done a certain way, and it made Bob a good painter.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. Now I go in training. I was accepted at the Art and Ogden Hospital School of Nursing. Didn't see him all summer. I was with my mother in Mercer, Pennsylvania, and didn't give him much thought. I go in training, and then in October, I get a letter from him. When I came home, he'd like to see me. And I figured, well, what the heck? So I went out with him again. Well, this time it stuck. And we, all through training, he came to Elmira to see me, and he said he would wait for me. And
how long was your nursing curriculum then?
3 full years, summer and winter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to graduate in September 1950, and we were going to get married in November. The 1st of September, he gets a notice that the inactive reserves were being called up. Unbeknownst to me, he had re-upped in 1948. So he was targeted.
Wow.
And he had his physical in Philadelphia, passed, of course. We moved our wedding date up to the September 24th. I had fulfilled all my time. On my birthday, September 23rd, I was 21. Got married on September 24th. My grandmother had to sign for me because when I applied for a license, I was still a minor. But anyway, we got married. He was notified that he was to report to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, October 13th. I had a job working in the operating room, but I hadn't started yet. I took him to the railroad station, and between us, after buying the ticket, had $3 between us, and a car payment due. My grandfather quickly took care of the car payment. That was no problem. And Bob kept saying, I think they'll use me for training because I had so many years in World War II. No, that was not the case.
Mm.
Thanksgiving Day, he was on 1950. He was on a troop train headed for California. Christmas Day, he was in Japan, and January 1st he was in front lines in Korea with snow falling on his turkey dinner.
Oh my. That all happened very quickly, didn't it?
So all the Bobs
And that was in 1950.
Yes. So then it was a severe winter in Korea, like 25 below zero, and they had a little foxhole stove. He was very proud to be assigned to the 25th Division, 27th Regiment, Wolfhounds, which is the famous crack outfit. But it didn't keep him from getting wounded.
Oh, really?
On February 4th, he was in a rice paddy advancing in a northerly position, and he was in a sort of semi-crouched position, and a sniper up in a tree shot him. He said he thought if he'd been standing upright, he would have been killed. The bullet took a little nick off one of his, a spinous process off one of his vertebrae, contused along.
On his back.
On his back. Contused along and exited the big muscle in his neck. Well, the medic that was supposed to be helping these fellows had bugged out and gone over the hill, and so he crawled to the end of the rice paddy, and in due time an army truck came along, picked him up, took him to the field hospital, which he said was just like Nash, state of confusion. And the army doctor said, "You look like a good, strong man. Lie down here, grab the top of the stretcher, and hang on. I'm going to take the piece of jacket out of your back." Well, Bob said that was much more painful than the actual wound.
Oh, wow.
The bullet wound.
Wow.
From there, he was transferred to an airstrip, was flown to Sendai, Japan, an army hospital, and every day their army beds, which were metal, of course, rattled because it was earthquake area. In more recent years, they had a severe earthquake in Sendai, and it caused a tsunami. But
Oh, was that the one that caused the big tsunami? Okay.
Same place.
Well, why don't we, this is almost at the end of our time, so why don't we quit here and then we'll continue the story in another episode.
Sure.
Thank you.